I stood in my craft room, surrounded by carefully arranged silk flowers, ribbon, and glass vases from the dollar store. My fingers were still sticky with hot glue, but I couldn't help smiling at the centerpieces I'd spent weeks creating for my sister-in-law Amanda's baby shower. Each one featured a delicate arrangement of pale pink and white flowers, with tiny silver butterflies perched on the edges and soft LED lights nestled among the petals. They weren't expensive, but they were made with love. I'd spent countless evenings perfecting them while my husband, Michael, worked late shifts at the hospital. "They're beautiful, Olivia," he'd said when I showed him the prototype. "Amanda will love them." I should have known better. The morning of the shower, I arrived early at Amanda's sprawling suburban home, carefully carrying 2 boxes of my handmade decorations. Her Mercedes and her best friend Jessica's Range Rover were already parked in the circular driveway, gleaming in the morning sun. The front door was unlocked, so I nudged it open with my hip, the weight of the boxes making my arms tremble. Music drifted from the living room, along with the sound of Amanda's distinctive laugh, the one she reserved for her wealthy friends. "Hello," I called out, making my way toward the voices. I brought the centerpieces. The laughter stopped abruptly. Amanda appeared in the doorway, her perfectly highlighted hair swept into an elegant updo, her baby bump barely visible under her designer maternity dress. Her eyes fixed on my boxes and her carefully painted lips twisted into a grimace. "Oh, you actually made them." Her voice dripped with disdain. Jessica peered over her shoulder, both of them staring at my creations like I'd brought in bags of garbage. "Of course." I set the boxes down carefully and pulled out one of the centerpieces. "Look, I matched the pink exactly to your invitation color and the butterflies." "Is that hot glue?" Amanda interrupted, stepping closer to inspect the arrangement. She reached out with one manicured finger and poked at a flower. "And these are from the dollar store, aren't they?" My cheeks burned. "Well, yes, but we don't want your dollar store decorations at the baby shower," Amanda announced, her voice sharp and clear. "Jessica's cousin is a professional event designer. She's already bringing over her premium centerpieces, imported flowers, crystal vases, the works." "But I spent weeks making these," I protested, my throat tightening. "Michael said you love them." Amanda's laugh was cold. "My brother means well, but he doesn't understand quality like I do. These," she gestured dismissively at my boxes, "these cheap things will ruin my perfect day. What will people think?" Jessica snickered behind her. "They'll think you shop at Dollar Tree for your baby." Tears pricked at my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. 3 years of marriage to Michael had taught me that crying only gave Amanda ammunition. She'd been like this since the day we met. The sophisticated, wealthy sister who thought her middle-class brother had married beneath him. "Fine," I said quietly, reaching for my boxes. "I'll take them home." "That's probably best," Amanda nodded, already turning away. "Oh, and Olivia, the dress code is designer casual. Please tell me you're not wearing that." Her eyes swept over my floral sundress, another bargain find I'd been proud of, until this moment. I fled to my car, hands shaking as I loaded the boxes into the trunk. Through the living room window, I could see Amanda and Jessica laughing together, probably at my expense. As I slid into the driver's seat, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "How's it going with the decorations? Amanda loving them." I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth. My husband adored his sister, always making excuses for her behavior. She had other plans. I typed back, "Going home to change. See you at the shower." The next few hours passed in a blur of shame and hurt as I ransacked my closet for something designer casual enough for Amanda's standards. I finally settled on a simple black dress, a splurge from last year's anniversary dinner. It wasn't designer, but maybe it could pass for expensive in the right light. When I returned to Amanda's house at 2 o'clock, the transformation was complete. The living room looked like something out of a luxury magazine. Towering centerpieces dripped with exotic orchids and roses, their crystal vases catching the afternoon sun. Everything sparkled from the champagne flutes to the elaborate "Welcome Baby" sign in rose gold lettering. "Now this is what a proper baby shower looks like," Amanda announced to the room of gathered guests, most of them her country club friends. "Jessica's cousin Melissa is simply the best event designer in the state. Everything is imported, handcrafted, absolutely top of the line." I stood in the corner, clutching my glass of sparkling water, feeling like an imposter in my not-quite designer dress. Michael was stuck at the hospital with an emergency surgery, leaving me to face this alone. The other guests circulated in their expensive outfits, exclaiming over the decorations and sharing stories about their own luxury events. The crystals in these centerpieces are Swarovski, Melissa explained to an admiring group. And the candles are from this amazing little shop in Paris. They're completely safe, of course, guaranteed to burn for exactly 8 hours without any risk. Amanda beamed, one hand resting on her baby bump. Only the best for my little one. Some people think you can just throw together any old thing from the dollar store, but I believe in quality. Her eyes met mine across the room, and I saw the challenge in them. This wasn't just about decorations, it was about proving she was better than me, that I didn't belong in her world. I had no idea then that in just 3 hours, those perfect, imported centerpieces would change everything. Or that Amanda's obsession with appearances would finally reveal the secret she'd been hiding since the day she announced her pregnancy. Sometimes the most expensive things come with the highest price. And sometimes the truth has a way of burning through even the most carefully constructed facades. The baby shower proceeded exactly as Amanda had planned, a perfectly choreographed display of wealth and status. I watched from my corner as she opened gift after designer gift. A Gucci diaper bag, a Burberry baby blanket, a silver-plated rattle that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "This is exactly what I wanted," she exclaimed over each present while Jessica dutifully recorded everything in a leather-bound notebook. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, making the imported crystal centerpieces sparkle like diamonds, their candles casting a warm glow across the room. My own gift, a handmade baby quilt I'd spent months working on, sat unopened at the bottom of the pile. I poured my heart into every stitch, incorporating fabric from family members' clothes. A piece of Michael's first doctor's coat, a square from Mom's favorite dress, even a bit of Dad's old fishing shirt. But now, surrounded by all this luxury, I wanted to grab it and run before Amanda could mock my handiwork in front of everyone. "Time for cake," Jessica announced, clapping her hands. The guests migrated toward the dining room, where an elaborate 5-tier confection stood surrounded by those towering floral arrangements. I stayed behind, using the moment of transition to text Michael. "How's the surgery going?" His reply came quickly. "Almost done. Strange case. Patient's blood work shows. Wait, something's not right. Call you soon." Before I could respond, a commotion erupted from the dining room. The sweet scent of vanilla cake was suddenly overtaken by something sharper, more acrid. Then I heard it, the distinctive crackle of flames. "Fire!" someone screamed. I rushed to the doorway just in time to see one of the designer centerpieces go up in flames, the imported candle having tipped into the exotic flowers. The crystal vase magnified the light, sending prismatic patterns dancing across the walls even as the flames climbed higher. Amanda stood frozen, one hand on her belly, the other clutching her designer dress. "My presence," she shrieked. "Someone do something." I didn't think, I just acted. All those fire safety courses I'd taken as a teacher kicked in. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from under the kitchen sink and rushed back, aiming the nozzle at the base of the flames. White foam covered the expensive flowers, the crystal, the imported candles. The fire died quickly, but the damage was done. Smoke hung in the air, and the pristine white walls were stained with soot. Half the presents were soaked in fire extinguisher foam, including my quilt, still wrapped and unopened. My perfect shower, Amanda sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks. "It's ruined. Those centerpieces were guaranteed safe. I'll sue them how?" She stopped mid-sentence, swaying slightly. Jessica rushed to support her, but Amanda shrugged her off. "I need air," she gasped, pushing through the crowd of murmuring guests toward the back patio. That's when I saw it, the medical file that had fallen from her designer purse in the chaos. It lay open on the floor, partially hidden under a singed gift bag. I wouldn't have given it a second glance except I recognized the header. It was from Michael's hospital. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I knew I shouldn't look, but something about Amanda's reaction, about Michael's strange text about blood work. Before I could stop myself, my eyes scanned the document. Patient: Amanda Carlton. Test: prenatal screening. Blood type: a negative. Note: potential complications due to Rh factor. I felt the blood drain from my face. Michael and I had just gone through fertility testing last month. I knew his blood type by heart, AB positive, and basic biology, which I taught to my 8th graders, told me something impossible. A father with AB blood could never have a child with a negative. Put that down. Amanda's voice was ice cold. She stood in the doorway, one hand still pressed against her stomach, the other reaching for the file. That's private medical information. Does Michael know? I asked quietly, still staring at the numbers that proved my brother-in-law couldn't be the father of Amanda's baby. It's none of your business. But her voice shook slightly, and I saw real fear in her eyes for the first time. Give me the file, Olivia. Now. Who is he? I pressed, keeping my voice low so the remaining guests couldn't hear. Does your perfect life include lying to your own brother? Amanda's carefully constructed facade cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but these weren't the pretty, theatrical tears from earlier. You don't understand, she whispered. The father, he's married. It was a mistake. Michael can never know. The sound of a throat clearing made us both jump. There in the doorway stood Michael, still in his surgical scrubs, his face ashen. His eyes moved from the smoke-damaged room to the medical file and my hands to his sister's tear-stained face. Know what? He asked, his voice low and steady. What can't I know, Amanda? The silence that followed Michael's question seemed to stretch forever. Smoke still hung in the air, mixing with the expensive perfume of Amanda's remaining guests, who were now transfixed by the unfolding drama. Jessica began quietly ushering them toward the door, for once showing some tact. Amanda's perfectly curated world was crumbling, and I could see it in her eyes. The same look she'd given my dollar store decorations, but now directed at her own life choices. Mikey, she began, using his childhood nickname, I can explain. The blood types, Michael said flatly, his doctor's training evident in his clinical tone. I just finished operating on a patient with a rare blood type combination. It made me think about genetics, about family patterns. He looked at the medical file in my hands, then back at his sister. I'm AB positive, Amanda. It's genetically impossible for me to be the father of an A negative baby. Amanda's legs gave out, and she sank into one of her expensive imported chairs, not caring that it was covered in fire extinguisher foam. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered. David, he was just supposed to be a client. But then one thing led to another, and when I found out I was pregnant. David? Michael's voice cracked. David Harrison, my department head. The look on Amanda's face confirmed it. David Harrison, married father of 3, chief of surgery at Michael's hospital, and apparently the real father of Amanda's baby. I couldn't tell anyone, Amanda continued, her carefully constructed mask finally shattering completely. Do you know what this would do to his family? To his career? To my reputation? It was easier to just pretend. Easier. Michael's laugh was hollow. Easier to lie to your own brother. To let me believe I was going to be an uncle. To let me tell all my colleagues about my sister's baby. He ran his hands through his hair, leaving it standing on end. I've been bragging about this baby to David for months. He just stood there, knowing. I moved to my husband's side, taking his hand. He squeezed it hard enough to hurt. But I didn't pull away. This was Michael as I'd never seen him. The scales finally falling from his eyes about his perfect, precious sister. I was going to tell you, Amanda pleaded, but the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. After the baby was born, I was going to say the blood type was a mistake. Like you told me my centerpieces were a mistake. I found myself saying, like everything that doesn't fit your perfect image is a mistake. Amanda flinched as if I'd slapped her. She looked around her smoke-damaged living room, at the ruins of her expensive party. The imported flowers were wilted, the crystal vases clouded with soot. Only my quilt, though soaked with fire extinguisher foam, remained intact, each loving stitch holding firm. I'm sorry, she whispered, and for the first time since I'd known her, it sounded genuine. I've been horrible to you, Olivia. You tried to give me something real, something made with love, and I threw it back in your face because it didn't match the lie I was living. Michael released my hand and walked to the window, his back rigid. I need time, he said finally. I can't process this right now. But I know one thing, I'm going to have to transfer to a different hospital. I can't work under David anymore. I'll call him, Amanda said quickly. Maybe he can arrange. No, Michael's voice was firm. You don't arrange anything anymore, Amanda. Not for me, not for my wife. He turned back to face her. You're my sister, and I love you. That won't change. But this perfect image you've tried to maintain, it's done more damage than any dollar store decoration ever could. As we left Amanda's house that evening, I glanced back one last time. Through the window, I could see her sitting alone in her ruined designer dress, surrounded by the aftermath of her perfect party. She was holding my quilt, running her fingers over the stitches, tears falling freely now that there was no one left to perform for. 6 months later, Amanda gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Hope, not a designer name, but a real one. The birth announcement was simple, sent on plain white cards. When we visited the hospital, there were no imported flowers or crystal vases, just a small stuffed bear from the gift shop and a handmade blanket on the bed. I saved your quilt, she told me softly as she handed me my niece to hold. It was the only gift that survived the fire. Sometimes I look at it and remember that day, how the expensive things burned, but the things made with love endured. I looked down at Hope, perfect and tiny in my arms, wrapped in a simple cotton blanket. She's beautiful, I said, and meant it. Amanda smiled, not her society smile, but something smaller and more genuine. Would you teach me how to make things? For her nursery? Nothing fancy, just real things. Things made with love. Michael, standing by the window, caught my eye and nodded slightly. Some things, once broken, can never be the same. But sometimes they can be rebuilt into something new, something true. I think, I said, adjusting Hope in my arms. I know a great little dollar store where we can start.